More rain and snow overnight tonight, but what does it mean when all this water comes down from our mountains? Utah water watchers are actually very encouraged. I'll tell you why straight ahead.
Utah felony charges.
Well, it's a KSL weather alert day as rain, snow, and heavy winds are on their way to much of our state. Lindsay Ayres is live with our spring and summer flood outlook as snowpack continues to pile up. But first, let's hear from Kevin about what the next couple of days and hours even will start to look like. Kevin?
Thanks a lot, Ashley. Well, it is raining in the and totals coming up in just a minute.
All right, Kevin, we'll see you in just a bit. Well, the rain and snow on its way right now are certain to add what's already been an above average water year.
That's right. News specialist Lindsay Ayres joins us live now. And Lindsay, what does this mean for us when all this snow eventually melts?
Well, Debbie and Ashley, it's actually quite encouraging. Water watchers say that right now we're above average and our reservoirs are about 80% full. And all this water that has to come down has to go somewhere. And so eventually that water will spill over. And that means big lakes like the Great Salt Lake and Lake Powell could actually fill with that spillover. Now, that's the first bit of good news. The other part is that Utah's Snow Survey isn't too concerned, at least yet, about flooding because this year's winter totals aren't off the charts yet. Now, I spoke with Jordan Clayton, who oversees Utah's snowpack monitoring stations. He says that last year's record winter, combined with what we're experiencing so far this winter, has our reservoirs in a really good spot.
We're about 82% full right now. We expect there's going to be a lot of reservoirs. In fact, most of the reservoirs in the state will fill. And there's going to be a high potential for extra water carryover flow to make it to those downstream water bodies like the Great Salt Lake, like Lake Powell, in a reasonably large and significant way.
Now, as for how much water is set to come down, Clayton says Utah's snow water equivalent, or the amount of water that's in the average statewide snowpack, is about 16 inches. But you compare that to last year's, we're seeing levels rather about twice that last year. Now, still, Clayton says, thanks to conservation and water management, our water supply is in a good position. Now, coming up in our 6 o'clock newscast, just how much could the Great Salt Lake fill from all the water that's up in those mountains? Well, it's still up in the air, but I'll have a prediction for you again coming up at 6 o'clock. For now, live at 5, I'm Lindsay Ayres. Back to you.
All right, Lindsay, thanks. Sounds like the best of every scenario. Well, today, 15...
Tonight on KSL-5 News at 6, no shortage of snowpack.
We expect there's going to be a lot of reservoirs. In fact, most of the reservoirs in the state will fill.
What more wet weather holds for Utah's water as we turn towards spring. Then a controversial
week, all coming up in the forecast.
All right, sounds good, Kevin. And thanks to storms like those, Utah is sitting pretty when it comes to our snowpack this year. In fact, Utah water watchers say even if we don't get another flake of snow, the amount of water in Utah's mountains is already above average for the year.
That's good news here. News specialist Lindsay Ayres has been talking to water experts today. And Lindsay, you have even more good news for us when it comes to our water this year.
Yeah, Ashley and Dini, well, all this water has to go somewhere, and it's going to come down from our mountains eventually. And because of last year's record winter, our reservoirs are already above 80%. And that means once they fill, lakes like the Great Salt Lake and Lake Powell could see some of that runoff.
Most of the reservoirs in the state will fill.
The trickle of water flowing down from Utah's mountains today may not look like much, but once it all comes down, Utah water watchers are watching for it to raise the levels of Utah's big bodies of water.
There's going to be a high potential for extra water carryover flow to make it to those downstream water bodies like the Great Salt Lake, like Lake Powell, in a reasonably large and significant way.
Jordan Clayton manages the Utah Snow Survey. They track Utah's water levels in our mountains. He says that Mother Nature's gift to us last winter, along with good management and conservation, means that today Utah's reservoirs are already 82% full. And once those reservoirs spill over, the water has to go somewhere.
That could raise the level of the lake 1 to 2 feet above where it is right now. And so that's pretty encouraging.
You can see which areas of the state are average or above average for their snow water equivalent as of today. The areas in blue are above average, mostly in the north. The green in southern Utah is average snowpack.
Last year it was dark blue. Last year we were breaking records.
But Clayton says this year conditions are great for this time of year, but not necessarily record-breaking.
And so that's why we're not really thinking about flooding yet. And again, it's going to really depend what happens in the next month or two.
His dream scenario, though, more snow over March and April, even into May.
My best case scenario, because I'm a snow scientist, is a little bit biased.
But he's also keeping a cautious eye on the thermostat.
And then it comes off very, very slowly. Once the sun angle gets really high in June, we don't cause flooding.
But even if we don't get another drop of snow, the water that will eventually rush down from our mountains, Clayton says, is significant.
Having 2 years that are above normal back-to-back is really going to be excellent for our water supply this summer.
Yeah, again, you guys, I don't want you to think that we don't have to conserve water once it does start to warm up, because Clayton says that conservation and Utah's management of our water is a big reason why we're in this position. For now, reporting live in Salt Lake City, I'm Lindsay Ertz. Ashley, back to you.
All right, Lindsay, enjoy that rain out there. Be sure to stay dry.
We have now learned the names of 3 people. Full restoration.
All right, imagine this, being billed for a medical product that you've never used.
It happened to the wife of a Sandy man who decided it was time to get Gephardt. This sounds outrageous.
It sure does, Deanie Ashley. And what we turned up is a massive scheme that is costing billions of dollars. And this Utah woman, just the latest victim.
Total of $15,500.
Gary Johnson discovered a discrepancy while examining his wife's Medicare statement.
It was for some urinary catheters, which my wife does not use, has never used.
Yeah, Medicare paid huge sums for the catheters that, not for nothing, also never showed up.
It showed a name of a doctor, of which I have no knowledge, and it showed a place that was supplying the catheters in El Paso, Texas.
Gary suspects fraud, and he asked me to investigate.
Lots of fraud going out there.
Indeed there is, says Jackie Smith.
So Medicare fraud is a big thing.
Smith runs Utah's Senior Medicare Patrol, which aims to protect Medicare recipients from fraud. Alas, that is not an easy job.
They're estimating about $60 billion worth of fraud every year through Medicare.
Huge money, and for whatever reason, urinary catheters seem to be a major tool for these con artists. Urinary catheter scams have become such a money loser that the Inspector General for the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services issued this notice warning folks to guard their Medicare numbers carefully.
Treat your Medicare card like a credit card.
I personally notified Medicare. And then
As for Gary, he's not out anything himself unless you count the tax dollars that we all pay to subsidize Medicare. Billions of dollars that he sure wishes would go to a better use than lining the pockets of crooks.
I hope that other people will carefully look at their explanation of benefits.
If you do suspect fraud, the feds say do not just ignore it, report it even if you're not sure. And Jackie says Utah's Senior Medicare Patrol has staff all over the state that can help you look at your bill and determine what is what. If you got a problem you can't solve, give me a shot at the number 385-707-6153, or you can email me, matt@ksl.com.
Good thing Gary was actually examining that statement.
Yep.
Crazy. All right, Matt, thank you.
All right, Kevin.